Hey guys, welcome to day 12 of 15 days to Spring Boot Mastery Challenge. I hope the learning is going on well. We have completed data-jpa and we have also learned how to build a simple Spring MVC application using Spring Boot. Now, in today's challenge, let us learn what is REST API and how to create a simple REST API using Spring Boot. Let us get started. Guys, already we have learned about MVC application. In case of an MVC application, a request goes from the client to the server. The server is responsible for performing all the business logic. After completing it, the server is responsible for returning the response to the client. In this scenario, this whole application itself is deployed as a WebRQ file. In case of web applications, both the front end and back end are part of one single application. Then what is REST API? REST API means representational state transfer. It is a type of web service. What is a service? Whatever you are seeing in the real world is called as a service. Travel agency provides a service of booking cabs. Hotels providing the service with rooms. Restaurant provides service with food. Hospital provides service with doctors. If you talk in digital terms, there are many apps which are providing a service. Delivery apps which provide service of delivering products, delivering food, delivering items. Booking apps provide the service of booking cabs, booking movies, booking doctors. Similar to this, there are so many services. These are all services which are provided to the end user. Like you, like me, we are all end users. We are using this service. But internally, if applications are providing services to each other, then they are called as web services. REST API is a type of web service. Let me explain it using a pictorial representation. Say for example, you are an end user. You want to use the service of a delivery app where you want to order food. You have added items to the cart and finally you need to pay. In this case, the delivery app is not going to perform any payment related task. Rather, it will send a request to some other app which can be a payment app. This payment app is responsible for performing tasks that are related to payment. That is, they connect to the bank and perform the payment related tasks. You all know, whenever you are ordering items, it is not getting ordered directly from your application. Rather, it is redirecting you to a payment service. From the payment service, it is getting connected to the bank and the operation is getting completed. Correct? So, these two applications are internally talking to each other. It is not only for payment, it can be for anything else. Whenever you are seeing certain applications where they don't want to handle a particular logic, they will internally call some other service to perform the task. So, this is an example. One application is talking to another application. What is the language they talk with? Just like how we are using a common language as English, here also the applications can use a common language as JSON, JavaScript object notation, or it can be XML. XML expects parsers. JSON is very comfortable to work with. If you notice, in this application, the end user, that is you or me, we are clients to this delivery app. But for this payment app, this delivery app becomes the client. So this is a client, this is a server. The client sends a request. The server returns a response. It means the server returns a resource. The resource is returned in the form of JSON or XML. Remember, it is not mandatory that these applications should be in same language. they can be in two different languages. You all know a delivery app. So is it mandatory that we will be using any back-end of technologies? No. We might be using React or Angular to develop the front-end application. Now the front-end application is making a call to the back-end. That is, it is requesting the data from the back-end. The back-end server is responsible for returning the data, which is a resource. Okay. I hope this part is clear. Now let me show you how a real REST API works. That is a pictorial representation. There is a e-commerce application. Assume this e-commerce application is developed using React. And this is the front page. Now, when the end user opens this app, he needs to see all the items or all the products in this particular page. But this is a front-end application. It is not having any business logic or database. So this front-end application is going to make a call to the backend. That is, it is requesting data from the server. The server is responsible for handling all the business logic. Maybe to connect to the database, get the data from the database, and it has to return the result. So the server returns the response. It means it is returning a resource. The resource will be in the form of JSON. How do they communicate? In this case, the request and the response is carried using HTTP protocol. They use the basic HTTP format, http://localhost:/. Just like how you do in a web application, they follow the same format. And the client can use all the HTTP methods to request for a resource. What are the HTTP methods that you know? Get, post, put, delete, patch. Each HTTP method is responsible for performing a specific operation. If the client uses get method, it means he is expecting a set of resource from the backend. Guys, when I say resource, it is nothing but data. In this case, I want to see the list of products. So, this application is sending a request to retrieve all the data. Now, the server will return the response. It is nothing but list of products. Okay. And again, I want to get the list of products by a particular category, electronics. When I click submit, again a request goes in with electronics. Now the server has to go to the backend, get the list of products by electronics, and it has to return a response, which is a resource. The resource is list of products by electronics category. Okay, and all the items will be shown over here. You are asking me something. I will give you the data in the form of JSON. You take the JSON, you modify it in whichever way you want, and you show it to the client. I hope this is clear. There are two applications. Application A is communicating to application B and asking for some data. B is returning the data. A will take it and modify it in whichever way it wants. Same way, the React application will get the data and show it to the end user in a user-friendly format. Here I am showing between a front-end and a back-end application. Internally, it can be between two different back-end applications which are written in two different languages also. Okay. If I want to add a resource to the database, then I can use post method. If I want to update a resource, use put method. If you want to delete a particular resource from the database, then use delete method. If you want to update a part of your resource, use patch method. Okay, these are all the HTTP methods that we will be using. And remember, content negotiation is possible between the client and the server. The client can inform the server, please send me a resource, but I want the resource in JSON format, or I want the resource in XML format, or any other custom format. So guys, I hope it is clear. The communication between client and server written in two different languages is taken care by REST API. Now, in our case, we are going to develop REST API using Spring Boot. We don't have a front-end application, so we will be learning how to test our application using Postman. Now let us get started with the coding part. While doing the coding part, I will also talk about the different annotations that are being used. Let me open Spring Toolsuite. Let us create a Spring Starter project. File, New, Spring Starter project. Let me give the application name as Spring Boot REST API. Type is Maven. Packaging is jar. Group ID is com.greetapp.dast. Guys, this is going to be a very simple application, okay? Package is com.greetapp. Click next. We need to add the dependency as Spring Web. And click finish. Now the application is getting created. Let it get created. I will explain the flow of this particular application and then we will start with the coding. Guys, for creating a REST API, the first thing is you need to add Spring Web as dependency. The second part is you need to create a class that is annotated with @REST controller. In a web application, we have used @controller annotation, which returns a view page where I can print the model. If you are annotating a class with @REST controller, this becomes a REST API. This REST controller is a combination of @controller annotation plus response body. It means the methods that you are adding in this class will return the data itself. Here the methods were returning the view page. Here the methods return the data response body. Okay. What can be the return type of the methods? The return type of the methods can be any type, meaning to say that it can be string, or it can be integer, or it can be list, or list of string, list of employee, list of book. Whatever you want to return, you can return it, provided it is not a primitive type. So these are the things that you need to know when you start working with REST API. To start with, we are going to work with one single class. Now let me go to Spring Toolsuite. Let me open the application. Open the package. Right click, new class. The package name is com.greetapp.controllers. The class name is greetings controller. Click finish. I don't want you guys to mess up with yesterday's application, so I have given it as greetings controller. Let me annotate this class with REST controller. I just want to show you something. Click on REST controller. See, this is a combination of @controller and response body. This means the methods in this class is going to return the response data directly. When we are working with MVC, it was returning the view page. Here it is going to return the data. This means the methods that you are adding in your class can have any return type. Okay. Now let me go back to greetings controller. Okay. Let us get started with the first method. As usual, we need to create a method that is annotated with get mapping, post mapping. Because this is a REST API, because we can use any of the HTTP methods, we are having the corresponding mapping annotation. I will show you that. Okay. To start with, let us have string greet message. In this case, we are just going to return a response, which is nothing but a resource. Return a resource. So let me add the code as return have a great day. Guys, again here also let me explain. From this place you will be calling the method of service, and then the data returned by the service will be the resource. Return the resource to the calling client. So this is what we will be doing. In the next application we will be learning that. As of now, let us return one simple string message. Guys, one thing I forgot to tell you. In this case, an embedded Tomcat server will be added. Open pom.xml, open dependency hierarchy. Here you can see the embedded Tomcat server jar files. Okay. Now let me go back to this class again. This method should be annotated with one of the HTTP method annotation. Let me just type it as @getMapping. Similar to that, we are having @putMapping, @postMapping. Based on the requirement, we will be using this. In the next application, we will be seeing the different type of mapping annotations. Now, it is a very simple request. So, I need to give it as @getMapping. Within this, I need to pass the URL. So, this is a REST API. And the resource that is returned from this REST API is "Have a great day." How to run this application? This application is running using embedded Tomcat server. So you can simply run it as right click, run as Spring Boot app, just like how you are running a standalone application. The embedded Tomcat server will be started automatically in port number 8080. Now, if the client wants to access this resource, he need to provide the URL pattern. The URL pattern looks like this: http://localhost:8080/this name. Okay. Now the client has to request for the REST API using this URL. From where? Technically this is from a different application. The client will programmatically call this REST API using this URL. We don't have a client application, but we need to test the REST API. How? Either you can use the browser or you can use the Postman app. If you are working with get mapping, that is, if you want to retrieve the data from the REST API, it is okay that you can use the browser. But if you want to send data to the server, you cannot use the browser. In that case, you need to download and install Postman. Okay? Fine. Now, to start with, let us test it using the browser. Let us first run the application. Select your application, right click, run as Spring Boot app. Let me maximize the console. Here you can see that Tomcat server is started on port number 8080. Now let us test this application. Let me open the browser. I'll copy this URL. Control V, enter. Now here you can see the output, "Have a great day." Now let us add one more method. Public string welcome user, string username. Now I have to return some message to this user, meaning to say I want to print welcome plus username. How to pass the username? The username can be passed in two ways. One is using a form. The client will fill the form. When he clicks submit, automatically the username will be sent to the REST API. If you have worked in a web application, you will know what is the appropriate annotation that you need to use. That is request param. Meaning to say that whatever data is added in the form, to retrieve the data from the form field, we need to use request param. If the data is attached to the URL, then we will be doing it in a different way. Let me add get mapping within quote /welcome. Now I assume the data is coming from a form field. That is, assume there is a client. In the client, there is a form which has a text field with a submit button. The text field name is username. Now, the client has to request data. Means when the client clicks submit, the output should be welcome, the name that the client has passed, welcome Priya. When the client clicks submit, it has to come to a method where the URL is /welcome. So, explicitly the client has to form the URL. So, it is http://localhost:8080/welcome. Now, when I click submit button, based on the form method. If it is post method, the data will go in the body part of the request. If it is get method, the data will go as a query string. As in question mark, the form field name is username equal to Priya. If I am having multiple values, then it will be ampersand city equal to Bengaluru. This is how it will go. Okay, if I am having another form field. Now, it enters into this particular method where the URL pattern is welcome. I need to retrieve the username and city. For that, the annotation that we will be using is @request param, within which we need to pass the text field name, username, string name, comma, @request param, city, string city. This is how we need to write the method. I hope this is clear. We don't have a form, we don't have a client, but we are creating a method in such a way that if someone is asking the data using a form field, I am returning a resource, which is nothing but the response. Okay, same thing we will try it out. So now the URL looks like http://localhost:8080/welcome question mark username equal to Priya ampersand city equal to Goa. Now I need to retrieve the value from username and city. So we will be using @request param annotation. @request param, within which pass username. This value will be assigned to the variable user. Just to differentiate, I have given different variable names. You can give this name and the parameter name same. Just to differentiate, I have given two different names, comma, @request param, city, string city. Okay. In this case, the form field name and the method parameter name are same. Guys, again I am repeating, these are the form field names that are available in the client program. So, I am trying to retrieve the data from the client program and I am providing the appropriate resource that is requested by the client. Okay, here let us have it as welcome user plus from city. Let us test this method also. We cannot again run this application because the application is up and running already. It is not terminated. So, you need to relaunch your application. See here, there is a red button with a green arrow which helps to relaunch the application. Click on this. Now the application will be restarted automatically. We will take this URL. I will paste it here. Enter. Welcome Priya from Goa. Guys, please understand, this is the URL that the client is passing to call the REST API. The REST API is returning the resource in this manner. So, this is the resource requested by the client. Okay. Now, we will move on to the third method. Public list of string show books. Return arrays.asList Java Spring. And let me annotate it with @getMapping. And let me have the URL pattern as /showbooks. We will modify this again. Now the URL looks like this, localhost:8080/show-books import list. Fine. Now guys, every time going and relaunching is very difficult. So we can go and add another starter to our application which is called as DevTools. So select your application, right click, scroll down to the bottom, Spring, add starters. Go and search for DevTools. This is used only for development purpose, which helps to relaunch your application again and again after you are doing certain changes in your application. Click next. select pom.xml, meaning to say that I am modifying it, and click finish. Done. Okay. Next time we don't have to relaunch it. This time we will relaunch. I'll copy this URL and go to the browser. Localhost :8080/showbooks. You can see the output over here. Let me click pretty print. This is the resource that is requested by the client. In all the three cases, the data is returned in the form of JSON only. Okay, let me go back to my application. Now let us modify this method. Based on the parameter, it has to return me different types of list. So let me have it as string type. If type dot equals tech, return Java and Spring, else return a different set of book. Now in this case, I am expecting value of type from the client side. If the client is having a form, I can retrieve the data from the form field using request param. Suppose if there is no form, the data can come in the URL itself. How? As in, I can pass /tech, or I can pass it as /self-help. This means this is the data that is provided by the client. I need to retrieve the data that is coming from the client URL. For that, we will modify this /curly brace. I need to pass some variable name. Maybe I will give it as category. And I need to retrieve this particular data and assign it to type. So use @path variable annotation, within which pass the variable name that you have given here. So this means in the URL, if the client is passing tech, this tech will be assigned to category. Now the value of category is tech, which will be assigned to type again. Based on the type, the business logic will be performed. If the client is passing self-help, the value of category will be self-help and it will be assigned to type, which is the parameter. Based on the type, the business logic will be performed. Now let me save it. The moment I save, automatically the application will be restarted. You can see this over here. It is getting restarted. Now let me go back to the browser. We will give it as /tech. Enter. It's giving me Java and Spring. If I give something other than tech, let me add an extra A. It is returning me the other resource. So technically this is a resource, nothing but a set of data in JSON format which is returned from the REST API to the client. We don't have any specific client, so we are testing the REST API using the browser. We can also test our REST API using Postman. So let us download it. Download Postman. Click on this. Automatically Postman will be downloaded. I already have my Postman downloaded. So let me go to the search box. Type Postman. This is an app. So you can open it. The Postman gets opened like this. Click on the plus symbol. The top part what you are seeing is where you will be providing the request. The bottom part is the place where you will be getting the response. Okay, let us get started with the first URL. http://localhost:8080/greet. After entering the URL, check for the method. Let me click on this. Here you can see all the HTTP methods that are provided and click on send. Now here you can see the output as have a great day. Whatever you have tested using the browser, here we are testing it using Postman. And see the status, it is 200 OK. It means it is successful. The response is successful. We will move on to the next one. We gave it as welcome. Now I am supposed to provide the query string. Guys, the query string means we are trying to retrieve the data from the form fields. Assume I don't know how to write the query string. So in that case, I can provide the key value pair. Key is the name of the form field, username. Value is the value for the form field. See, the moment I add the key and value, automatically the URL is getting framed. So if you are very comfortable with the query string, directly you can go and add the query string, or else you can just provide it in the same manner that I am giving it. Okay, let me click send. Here I am getting the output. Remember, when you are testing your application using Postman, your application should be up and running. Now the third URL. In the third case, it was show-books. Use snake case only. /tech. Enter. So the data is coming over here. There are many more things that you need to learn using Postman. You can see how the data is coming in a pretty format. If you want to see it in the raw format, just like how we have seen it in the browser. What are the headers that are returned in the response? What is the status of the response? All these informations you can get it using Postman. Okay. Now instead of text, if I am giving something else, send or enter, it is giving me the appropriate resource. So guys, I hope this is clear. We have learned how to develop a simple REST API using Spring Boot. This is just a basic one. In the next video, we will be learning how to develop a product REST API for an e-commerce application which is also integrated with the database. That will be very intense because we will be using all the different types of mapping, that is get mapping, put mapping, post mapping. We will be using request param, path variable. We will also have our controller class, service layer, repository, integrating with the database, which is going to be a full-fledged application. So stay tuned. Expecting you all to watch the video, try the coding part and share the feedback. Let us learn, code and grow together. Thanks.